My name is Adam Braun, and I am the founder of an organization called Pencils of Promise. Yeah, thank you. So I was born in New York City, but I grew up in Connecticut with a really, really closely knit family. This is my cousins, my brother, my grandmother, and I'm the awesome kid in the yellow sweater over here. So from a really, really early age, it was incredibly clear to me one thing, that I was not going to have a career in fashion. And I did have a very distinct interest instead, though. I was really, really interested in money, in particular finance. This isn't a joke. Finance, I was really, really drawn by. My mother was an orthodontist, my father was a dentist, but most of the people in the community where I grew up were bankers that were going back and forth between Connecticut and New York City, either on Wall Street or running companies. And so I was really, really fascinated by how money flowed, how Wall Street worked. And so a lot of my early formative experiences in life were opening up kind of stock market accounts, doing a little bit of trading, but more than anything, working at hedge funds, at fund of funds, at private equity, and at institutional banks. And so my background, when you hear what I do, is a bit atraditional. When I was about 20, I was a student at Braun University. I was really loving my life. I was playing college basketball, great girlfriend, great friends, close family. Everything seemed to be going right. But I saw a film called Baraka. It was shot all around the world in 24 different countries, and there was one scene in particular that was shot in India, and it blew my mind. And before I went down this kind of very clear-cut path, I figured I have to go there and see it with my own eyes. And so I discovered a program called Semester at Sea. It's a cruise ship that goes around the world, and it's a floating campus. And so I quit the basketball team, broke up with my girlfriend, didn't tell any of my friends that I was going, and very logically went on Semester at Sea. And I'm going to show you a very quick clip of what happened to us. So this is my ship. It's a 1,000-person cruise ship, 900 miles from land. And we got hit by a rogue wave, a 60-foot wave, in the middle of the ocean. You're about to see the wave in a few seconds. And you'll see it shatters the glass on the 6th floor, the bridge. And it flooded the area where all the navigational equipment was, and by the time the Coast Guard got to us, we had no power, and I was on this boat. Again, I was there. You guys don't have to freak out. This wasn't real. And as you can imagine, this wasn't a near-death experience. It was certain death, no question at all. This announcement comes. I hope I never experience something like this again, but get to the 5th floor higher, help the women and children up the stairs, get to the muster stations, which is where you evacuate the ship from. And we're looking at 40-foot swells in the North Pacific in winter, hypothermia immediately. And so I had this feeling of my time is done. But this overwhelming calm settled over me, and this renewed sense of purpose. It was clear to me that I just had more to do. It wasn't 21-year-old man perishes at sea. That wasn't what I was supposed to leave behind. And so, of course, with this renewed sense of purpose, I went out into the developing world. We got shipwrecked, and then we continued to travel, and I had a habit of asking one kid per country what they wanted most in the world. Expecting to hear a PlayStation, you know, a flat screen TV, all the things that we take for granted. And I asked a young girl in Hawaii where we were shipwrecked. Again, a terrible place to get shipwrecked, Hawaii. But I said, what do you want most in the world? And this young, beautiful girl said, to dance. And then I asked a girl in China, I said, what do you want most in the world? And she said, a book. And then I got to Hong Kong, and I heard my favorite answer, which was magic. Just magic. And by the time I got to India, the reason I went on this trip, the kind of karmic compulsion to go in the first place, I asked this boy begging on the streets where the poverty is overwhelming, and you can't give money because it perpetuates this kind of cycle of begging, and you know, candy works really well, but as I mentioned, my mother's an orthodontist and my father's a dentist, and so it's like they would be very upset with me. And I said, what do you want most in the world, to this young boy? And he looked at me and he said, a pencil. And that was it, just a pencil. And I had one, and I gave him my pencil, and he lit up completely, and you know, held it in the air, and there was this instant moment of transformation in me personally where he went, this act. Two things happened. One, I realized the incredible power of education in the hands of locals, not just us as Westerners kind of imparting our ideals onto others, but the pencil as a tool for empowerment. And then secondly, even as a young person, I could actually help somebody in a meaningful way. It wasn't just about, you know, the select few. The creation of good is a space that should be accessible to all. And so I continued to travel the world, passing out pens and pencils that fostered dialogues around education. And I came back 21 years old, a man on fire. And I wanted to change the world, and I wanted to help try and build one school. But I found that there was kind of two types of nonprofits in existence. There were those that were kind of mom and pop in the field doing international education work, at least this is specific to the education space, but they really, really got how communities worked. They usually lived there. These are really passionate individuals, but they always lacked for-profit business acumen. They'd never run real businesses, and they could never scale efficiently. The other type was somebody who had a tremendous amount of business experience, but often had never really spent tons and tons of time in the community. And I was kind of on this finance path, but now as this guy that was obsessed with backpacking and going to now more than 70 countries, which is backpacking. And so I figured, why don't I try and become a hybrid of the two? So I went through interviews with investment banks and management consulting firms and private equity, and was really fortunate to land a job at Bain & Company. And I spent a few years working at Bain in management consulting, and just as my friends started to leave to go to Harvard Business School and Wharton and Stanford GSB and Blackstone and KK, all these places that you guys know well, I did something that my parents weren't really, really happy about. I decided to start a nonprofit that was driven by for-profit business principles with kind of this nonprofit set of ideals. And so I really believe this: big dreams start with small, unreasonable acts. And I was about to turn 25, I was 24. And I went to the bank, I said, I want to start this organization called Pencils of Promise, and I want to try and build one school. What do I have to start with? And they said, well, $25. I said, that's a good sign, I'm about to turn 25. So I put $25 into a bank account, this is the actual deposit, and asked my friends to come to a birthday party. I was Mark Zuckerberg's year in college. I was at Braun in the sophomore class when he launched it as a sophomore at Harvard, and so I was probably one of the first 5,000 people on what is now 700 or 800 million, whatever the number is now. And so all my friends were on it. It was the way that we conversed with one another. So I sent out a Facebook invite. I said, give $20 at the door. Every dollar is going to Pencils of Promise. And we basically found any excuse to throw a small event for young professionals in New York City. And in our first 2 years, 98% of the donations that we received were in amounts of $100 or less from young people. Okay? This is a very, very atraditional approach to starting a nonprofit. And every person said to me, it's impossible. Can't be done. Completely impossible. You need your pillars. And so what happened was I said, all right, these people can't donate money, but what they can do is they can donate their skills, their ability, their energy. So this is the Bain office at 10 p.m. These are people, I won't go through their backgrounds, but this is the top pedigree across New York City. And we formed this model of how we were going to do work. We built it based on kind of management consultant principles of community evaluation, monitoring, and data tracking, really. And not just having kind of this compassion, but backing it up with a sense of true sustainability. And so, then we sent people into the field. And we took these beautiful pictures, and we GPS located everything. And we proposed something that was foreign to the space. And we said, we propose radical transparency. We're going to put everything on our website, absolutely everything. You can see all the data. And we're going to build one of the most beautiful websites you've ever seen. And so we literally just started sharing pictures like this. There's a big bend on empowerment of girls in the developing world, and we really focus on that within our programs. So we're going to show you the girls that are sprinting to school now because of your $20 contribution, your $25, in this one's in Guatemala. And so I started with this kind of humble ambition to build one school just under 3 years ago. And so in a few weeks, we'll turn 3 years old. So kind of what's happened. One, we've broken ground on more than 40 schools across Laos, Nicaragua, and Guatemala. 2, we've built up the largest social media following out of any nonprofit started in the last 4 years. And 3, we've delivered more than 1 million educational hours in the developing world. So, thank you. So how has it happened? If there's a few things I can share with this audience in terms of the spirit of the times, it's the way that we approach the work. We're not a nonprofit, okay? At all. That's an oxymoron of a term. We're a for-purpose. We want to make massive profits, but we're more driven by our purpose than our profits. And I really believe in this notion that there's change coming. There was this angry for-profit space and this doe-eyed kind of for-purpose space, but there's this emerging change that's happening where the for-profits are actually creating a lot of good through cause marketing, through just different initiatives, CSR, et cetera. What I think is coming is the for-purpose space is actually going to start treating itself more like the for-profit space, and the intersection I call profitable purpose. Okay? This is kind of a new term that I'm hopefully going to start projecting out there. That's what I think is the future. And how does that happen? 5 really, really kind of simple steps, but again, somewhat atraditional. 1, you find your revolution. You know, I was really inspired by the Rolling Stones and Bob Dylan and all these other individuals who, they created a revolution within people, but it started within themselves. And I really believe this. Every person is a revolution within themselves waiting to happen. Okay, so find your revolution. You find what you love most. That's the first step. Second, you speak the language of the person you want to become. If you run a company and you have an interest in actually using your company to build true social change, you just speak it, and then the universal energy of the world conspires to make it happen. Third, you embrace the late sleepless nights. I mean, this stuff doesn't happen easily. People say, how'd you build up hundreds of thousands of followers? Well, I spent a lot of time in front of a computer. That's how it happened. I mean, we spend our time in the middle of the night dreaming up concepts that I think only occur in this kind of weird state of liminality when the rest of the world is at rest and we're still dreaming, but we're kind of doing it while we're awake. Fourth is you seek out the impossible ones. I'm not a realist. I see no point in being a realist and a pragmatist. I think of myself not even as an idealist. I'm an impossibilist. I believe in things that are utterly, utterly impossible. We built 40 schools in 3 years. We now really believe that we can build more than 100 by the end of next year, but it starts with individuals who believe in the impossible. There's a 13-year-old girl, her name is Katrina Davies in New York City, who just raised $27,000 a few months ago. Better than that, she made me a friendship bracelet at camp and gave it to me, okay? This girl's incredible. But cost us at this point $25,000 to build a classroom and sustain it with a community's involvement and true investment throughout. So that means all we have to do is find 60 impossible ones. I mean, just by a show of hands, just curious, how many people believe that they are an impossible one within this room, that they can actually achieve something that is impossible, utterly, utterly impossible? I would hope so. I mean, this is Google, right? And so the last thing that I'll leave you with is there's this concept that I really believe in called GTS. I think it's something that the millennial generation in particular has really adopted. Countless people really believe in this. GTS, I think, is the way that you can not only access, but actually find the exact path through which that change can be made. I really encourage all of you to practice it, GTS. When you can't figure out what to do, Google that shit. Thank you so much. Our footprint awaits.